Scatter plots are diagrams that can be drawn in SPSS, and they are used to examine the relationship between variables. And in fact, it is the first step to do in SPSS if you are looking at a relationship or association between two or more variables, and if these variables are normally distributed and continuous. And there are four different types of scatter plots. Simple scatter plot, the one to use when you have two variables and you want to look at the relationship between these two variables, whether it's positive or negative, or there is no relationship. However, if you have more than two variables to examine, then 3D scatter plot is the one to consider, as it will plot the three variables together in a 3D format. Another option is probably to use is overlay scatter plot, in which the graph examine the relationship between several variables by drawing one variable and fixing it on one axis of the graph and plotting it against several other variables on the y-axis of the graph. The matrix scatter plot, also another diagram or chart that can be used to examine the relationship between all combination of multiple variables by looking at pairs of these variables in a combination of pairs of the variable in one diagram. Simple scatter plot is a diagram or a chart that can be drawn in SPSS to examine or find out any relationship between two variables. And what kind of relationship? Is it a positive relationship or is it a negative relationship? By drawing a scatter plot, and then also determining whether there is a outliers in your data. And outliers are the extreme high or low data scores in your data. So I will show you how to draw a simple scatter plot in SPSS, how to edit that diagram, and how to export the graph or the chart or the diagram into a Word document or a PowerPoint or a PDF format file, or save it as a PDF file. So here I have a data in SPSS in which I have 8 columns. First one is a dichotomous variable, gender, male and female, and in these data I'm interested in looking at the relationship between the data 1 and data 3 by drawing a scatter plot to examine the relationship between them prior to doing correlation. The way to draw a scatter plot is to go to click on graphs, scroll down to legacy dialogues, click on scatter plot, then click on symbol scatter, as here we are doing a simple scatter plot. Define, reset this, and I'm going to move data 1 into y-axis and data 3 into x-axis. I could also add a title or a subtitle or a footnote into the diagrams, but here I will leave it blank as I'm going to do this in another way. Up to here, click on the icon for OK. A diagram, a scatter plot diagram, is drawn by SPSS, and here we can see the data 1 is on the y-axis, data 2 is data 3 on the x-axis, and the relationship between those two variables is represented by small circles. So if I double click on the graph, another window will come up. Here what I'm interested in, adding a trend line. So if I add a trend line, a line will be added to the scatter plot, and I'm going to remove this small square from here. So if I untick the attach label, this will disappear, and then close this. Now if I want also to remove the gray background here, double click on the gray background. Again here a window will appear, and if I'm going to select the preview, make it white, and then click on apply, the background has disappeared and become white. Now if I want also to remove this small square here, which are two for linear, click on it and then right click on it again and click on delete to remove it. Close. Now if I want to do more editing, changing the color of this small circle, just double click on them, and here a window will appear giving you the options to change the size. I can go for 3, and I can go for color, change the color into, let's say, this color, dark blue, and I can also increase the border width, and I apply it and look at it as here. I could also close it, close this, and then look at it, it's like a small dot. Now if I double click again, and these are small dots here, no major changes. Okay, also I could change the color of the trend line or the best fit line for a linear options by going at the line color here, and I can change really the style of the line. I can change the width, make it more wider, and check apply, and you see it's thicker. I could change the color into red and check apply. Again, I have here a red trend line and with the blue circles in it. Now what else I can also do, edit, if I would like to add a title here or a footnote or a subtitles, the way to do is to right click on this diagram, a list will appear here. I could really add x-axis, reference line, and so on. So if I would like to add a title, I could click on add title and then type in the title here, correlation. Okay, correlation. And I also could add, should be a little bit capital letter. If I double click on it, I could really change this into capital letter, and again, so I could also add annotation if I would, if you would like to add annotation, and that will be in the graph. You want to remove the annotation, double click on it and then right click again and click on delete. I could also again double click on the diagram and then right click. I will get add text box if I want. I can add a footnote by typing, let's say, figure something, figure whatever, number 1. Now I have a title and a footnote for the diagram. What else? Also I can do some editing for the diagram. If I choose transpose chart, the y-axis and x-axis swap, as we can see here, data 1 in the x and data 3 in the y. And if I don't want to, if I click on transpose again, it will be revert back to the original. So these are some of the common edit you can perform in Spss to shape up your diagram. I could also do some changes here on this. If I click on these x-axis numbers, double click on it, I could change the style by increasing or decreasing the size. I could also change the color if I want. Change the color into, let's say, green. How does it look like with the green? And so on. I could do a few editing here. I could also remove, make it decimal by clicking at the number format, and here decimal, change that into 0, so to remove the decimals. I could also change the scale if I would, increasing the scale, minimum and so on. So minimum increment, instead of 5 I can make 2, so I will get more number in between, and so on. And the same thing I could do for the y-axis by double clicking on these numbers, and I could go for number format, and I stick to decimal 1, and then apply. Again, 1 decimals disappeared, and so on and so on. I can also change the scale, change the label, and change the text and style, and make the color yellow if I would like, or I will stick with this color for a little bit of change. And also I can change the scale here, major increment 0.5, I could make it 0.1 to increase it, and if I click on apply, and so on, more incrementing added. I could also change the title for the y-axis. If I single click on it, it allows me to change the label on it, whatever, add or remove letters from it. However, if I click on double, I can also change the size here. If I again click on double, I can increase the size of this into 14, apply, and so on. And the same thing going for the x-axis. If I only single click, I can do changes here, correction, data, and so on. And if I double click here, I can change that to 14 and apply, and so on. Now this is probably the final shape of the diagram. If I want now to export the chart into whether a Word document or PowerPoint, or save it in a PDF format, the way to do that is to go back again to the original graph, right click on it. You have two options here. I'm going to show you the two: copy special or export. We start with export. If I click on export, it's give me an option here, say what type of document you want to export it, as a PDF, as a Word document, as a PowerPoint, plain text, and so on. We will go for Word documents here. If I click on Word documents, and I'm going to save that in one of the folder here, I had correlation, and I will save it here, and I call it correlation graph, correlation graph. Click save, click OK, and click here open the containing folder, and it should automatically open the folder saved here, correlation graph. And if you all click on the correlation graph, you get the graph in Word documents. However, if you saved it in for example, if you go back again and we save it, export that in a PDF format, again call it correlation graph. Okay, again it has also saved it in a PDF format with figure, with title, labels and X and Y axis, and footnotes. And if you want to do it in PowerPoint, it's also similar to that. Now the other way also to, instead of exporting the graph, is rather than exporting it, is to copy special. In a copy special, if you click on right click again, if I repeat, right click again in the graph, copy special, then click on image. You have to click on image because you want to transfer this diagram as an image. And then if I go here to PowerPoint and then new page and then right click and then click on the diagram, the scatter plot is transferred into PowerPoint. So this is the way to draw a scatter plot in SPSS. Simple scatter plot. In this part 2 section of the video, I will show you how to build a simple scatter plot using chart builder. Back again to the SPSS. Here I have the data and I'm going to plot a scatter plot looking at the data correlation or relationship between data 1 and data 3, and I'm going also to add another variable, which is the gender dichotomous variable, male or females, and sort out the scatter plot comparison or relationship between data 1 and data 2 and sort them out according to their male or female gender. So to do this, I will click on graph and then scroll to chart builder. Click here OK, and then you will get a window like this. In this window, I'm going to scroll in the gallery down to scatter dot, and in the scatter dot diagram or plot, we have here different options, either to draw a simple scatter, grouped scatter, simple 3D scatter, grouped 3D scatter, and so on and so on, and matrix scatter plot. And I'm going to select the simple scatter plot. If I click and drag into this empty box, again here I have the scatter plot ready to place data 1 in the y-axis and data 3 into the x-axis. So now I want to, if I click also on the basic elements, I have another function here. If I want to swap this, I can do transpose to swap the axis, data on the axis. And if I click on a group point ID, this is an extra additional function for drawing a chart. If I am going to add a third grouping, a third variable for grouping these data, so if I group the data using gender here again and click on OK, SPSS will generate a scatter plot between data 1 and data 3 and will arrange them according to their gender. These data, male blue and female is green. And if you go back again to the chart builder, I could also, instead of using the grouping, I could go also group the data in rows panel variable and move the gender to the panel. And if you click OK, what happens here is that a scatter plot is generated, splitting it into two diagrams, data 1 compared to data 3 for male and females in one diagram, but split according to the gender. This is when we use the function rows and panel. However, if we select the columns, arrange them by columns, panel variable, and move the gender to the panel, again the scatter plot will be produced, data 1 compared to data 3, but split on columns for male and females according to their gender. So these are some of the editing things that can be done when you use the command for chart builder. And again, if you click also in point ID, I'll move it to the point and click OK. Again, the gender of each individual circles, it will be labeled either male or female. And if you go back again, click this one, get out of this one. Again, if we click, close this one, and then if we click on chart builder, in this chart builder we are going to stick to group by coloring, by gender, color the genders for data 1 and data 2. And if we click on title here in this section, I can really add a title. If we go back again here, we have to move the gender up to here so it can be really finished. So if we click on title, food, gender, and in this I can type a title for this plot by calling it correlation. Click apply, and then I could also add a footnote and call it figure 1 and apply. Okay, now I think we are ready here to in the options. I don't think we are going to make any changes, nor in the element property. So far we only click the icon for OK. A diagram will be produced with again title correlation, footnote figure 1, x-axis label data 3 and y data 1, and then legend of genders, blue for male and green for female. If I double click on the scatter plot, another window will open. In this scatter plot I'm going to do a few editing. First of all, I'm going to insert a trend line using linear trend line as here, and I'm going to untick the attach label to the line, so just to get rid of this box. If you click apply, this line is produced. Now if I want to change the background here from gray into white, click on it, click apply. Again, the background is white now. If I want also to get rid of this R square linear, click on it, right click on it, one click, and then left click and then right click and go for delete and delete that things. Close. Now if I want also to either increase these circle things or decrease them, whichever ones, or even change the color for them, I can do that through this window. And I can change even the type, whether square, circle, and choose other shapes. And if I click apply, again the circle's size increased. I also can change the line color. If I would, I could probably put a red color, apply, and trend line is reduced red color. What else I can do editing with this diagram? I could also, as shown before, could change this data y-axis label, increase the font or decrease the font, change its color, put another color. If we can here go for, let's say, light blue, and apply it, this will be light blue, and do the same thing for this one, light blue, and apply, and so on. And also I can change the size and change the style, whatever, bold or not bold or normal, and so on. Furthermore, also I could change also this figure on the x-axis. If I would like to remove the decimal from it and make it 0, so I'm getting just numbers without decimals. I could also change the scale, major increment, make it, let's say, 2, and we get more data, more numbers on the x-axis. Could do the same for the y-axis also. Change the increment 2.2, to increase it more, to give it more, and go for number formats. Here I'm going to change the decimal to 1 to make it 1. I click on OK. Again, as we can see here, this is the diagram in which we have correlation as a title, figure 1 as a note, footnote, then can change the data label on the y-axis, the data 3 or label on the x-axis. So this is the way to do chart builder. Now if I want again to import or to copy and transfer this diagram into Word document or PowerPoint or save it in a PDF as I shown before, I'm going to close this one. Now I have this plot. I can right click, copy special, and I make sure that I tick on the image, click on OK, and again I could open here a new PowerPoint and paste the diagram here. That's one option. Or I can select the diagram and click on export. Again, I have options here to export it as PDF, as Word document, as PowerPoint. We'll go for PDF, and I'm going to save that in this desktop in the correlation in Spss, and then I'm going to call it correlation, and if I click save and then I'm open the containing folder, click on OK. Again, it's exporting it to the folder, and hopefully soon it will show up the location of the Scatterplot as shown here in a PDF format. So this is the way to build a scatter plot in Spss using chart builder with modification, and how to modify it and edit it, and how to export that into different software packages like Microsoft, PowerPoint, Word document, and so on. 3D scatter plot is a diagram used to display the relationship between three variables, continuous variables, and you want to look at the relationship. The 3D scatter is the way to go for. And to do a 3D scatter in Spss, here I have a data, continuous data from 1 to 7, and I want to look at the relationship between data number 5, 4, and 5, and 6. And I'm going to add additional variables, dichotomous variables for gender, male or female, to sort out the data, males and females, when we look at the relationship between these three variables. So the way to do that in Spss is to click on graphs, legacy, dialogues, then click on scatter dot, select 3D scatter, click on define. I am going here to select data 4 and move it to the y-axis, and I'm going to select data 5 and move it to the x-axis, and I'm going to select data number 6 and add it to the z-axis. And I'm going to set markers by gender. So I'm going to generate a legend showing males and females for the relationship between these three variables. Here I could also add a title for the diagram or graph or chart, and footnote, and also I can add subtitles, but I will leave it because I'm going to add it in different way. So if I click on OK, a 3D scatter plot is generated, in which you have data number 4 on the y-axis, data 5 on x-axis, and data 6 on the z-axis, and small circles colored green and blue, blue for male, green for female. And again, here I can really do a few modification and editing for the graph. If I double click on the graph, I will get another window, and if I double click on that, and I'm going to change the background into white, so it's becoming white. And I could also change the, again, if I single click on data, I can, sorry, if I single click on data, I can really edit the text within it. And if I double click on it, I can do some modification by increasing the font size, changing the color to red, and so on. And I could do the same thing for 5, changing the color, changing the font, and so on, and click on apply. And I also can do the same thing for the other label in this way. And that's the for the levels. I can also click on the y-axis number, and I can do some modification if I wish. Instead of having 2 decimals, go for 0 decimals. And if I wish also, I could change the scales by changing the increments by 10 to, let's say, 8. So give us more space, or increase that to 15, and so on. Changes back again to 10. And I could do the same thing also for the other, the x-axis, changing the decimal to 0. And again, if I wish, I could also change the scale here, and I could do also the same thing, double click on this number to change the decimal into 0. And I can also scale it if I want, whatever scales I want to do. And basically, this most of the things that I really want to do. I also can change the font if I want by clicking red, make it click to highlight it, and so on. So these are some of the modification can be done with this 3D scatter plot. I could also double click on the graph, or single click and then right click. In this right click, I get a list of things that I can do. I can rotate the scatter box whichever direction I want, up and down, right, left, and so on. I can also add title, correlation, and I can add a footnote, figure, here one, and so on. What else? Other changes I can do is hide the legend or show the legend. I can also transpose data, 5 with 6 and 6 with 5, and so on. So these are some of the editing things that can be done on the 3D scatter plot. So now also I can, if I want to export this 3D scatter plot, I can do that by clicking on this, right click on the graph, and then go for export. In the export, I could really export the file in different format, either as a PDF or as a Word document or as a PowerPoint. So I'm going to export it as a PDF, and I'm going to select the folder to put it on correlation, and I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to call it 3D. Click save, and I'm going to take this, open the containing folder. It is in the software, extract the diagram into the folder, and once it is done, it will automatically go to that folder, and if I double click it is saved as a PDF file. So this is one way to export the diagram. The other one is to right click and then click on copy image, and then you have to make it clear that in this box you need to select the image, format to copy image, and then click OK, and then you can transfer that into Word documents or Excel or even PowerPoint. And if you right click here, choose this, again the diagram is shown in the PowerPoint. 3D scatter plot is a chart or a diagram that can be used to display or to show the relationship between three variables that are continuous. In this second part, I am going to show you how to draw 3D scatter plot using chart builder. Here in this data I have variable data from 1 to 7, and I'm going to draw a 3D scatter plot for data 1 and data 4 and data 7, and I'm going to add to this scatter plot, 3D scatter plot, another variable, dichotomous variable that has gender in it, male or female. And the way to do that in Spss is to click on graphs, select chart builder, and then when this window appears, click on OK. Again, here is a window for a chart builder, and I'm going to click on gallery, scroll to scatter slash dot. In the scatter slash dot I have two options for 3D scatter plot, either a simple one or a grouped 3D scatter, and I'm going to stick with the 3D because it is more inclusive. And I'm going to move the data number 1 into the y-axis, data number 4 into x-axis, data number 7 into y-axis, and I'm going to add gender for coloring, so male will have a color and female have another color. Now if I click on basic elements, I'm not going to make changes. However, if I click on groups or point ID, this is one of the really good feature in the chart builder. Again, here we selected grouping the data based on their gender. So if I click on OK and I will view the 3D scatter plot, here I get the 3D data 1, data 4, data 7 in different axes, and then these green and blue colors represent male and female. Now this is one feature of Scatterplot 3D. I could also untick this and tick row, group them by row panel variables, and I move the gender into the panel here. Again, the diagram is split into two. I have here two 3D scatter plot, one for male and one for female, split according to their gender, and data 1 and data 4 and 7 are drawn here in the 3D scatter plot for males and females. Again, if I go back again to the chart builder and untick the rows and I group the data based on columns, move it to panel here. Again, it will split the scatter plot into two parts, one for male, one for female, and all the data represented for male in one 3D scatter and females in another 3D scatter. So these are most of the features available to choose from. If I want to go for point ID, again, if we click on OK, it will label the circles either male or females as shown here. Now I will stick to the options of this, group them by gender. So in the y-axis I have data 1, in x-axis data 4, and in the z data 5, and I'm going to untick this one, and I'm going to move data 7. I'm going to move the gender into the set color box. If I click on the title and footnotes also, I can add a title to the graph when it is produced. So if I name that correlation and then click on apply, and I click on footnotes, and then type here figure 1, type apply, and then click OK. A 3D scatter graph scatter plot is produced with a title of correlation and a footnote of figure 1 and the legend of gender, blue for male, green for female, y-axis for data 1, x-axis for data 4, and z-axis for data 7. If I double click on that graph, I will get another window. Here I can really do some editing. So if I want to remove the gray background, double click in the graph again, click on this preview, click on the white things, click on apply. I could also reduce the color of the gray by clicking on this to reduce it to more lighter color. I click on that, click on here, okay, and then close. Again, there are few things we can edit here. If I want to type more in the y-axis label of it, single click, allow me to change it if I want. Double click will allow me to edit the size, the color, and other things that we are not going to look at it. Again, I can do the same with this one, data 4, similar, make it 14 and apply. And data 7, I could really give it also 16 and give it a green color, and so on. I could also click on this number and do some editing. Scale, I could change the scale from 0.5 to 0.4. Again, it's becoming too small. I could also return it back either to 5 or 6. And I could also change the number format. Instead of having decimal to decimal, make it 0, or make it here just 1, because it has fraction in it. And the same thing for the data on the x-axis. If I double click on it and then go for format, number format, make the decimal 0, and then if I would like to add scaling, maybe add another, make the scale smaller, bigger, major increment, or reduce it to 8, and so on. And I could also do the same thing for the Z axis, the data 7. If I click on format and make it 0, and I could go for scale, again I could change the scale, but I will leave it like this. So there are some of the editing options that are available for the 3D scatter plot. Now, if I click on the graph, right click on it again, I will get another list which allow me to do more editing. I could really move and rotate the plot. I could also right click on it, add title if I want, add footnote if I want. I could hide the legend, or I could show the legend. I could also transpose the data 4 in place of data 1, or return it back to its original. So these are some of the editing options available for the 3D scatter plot. Now, after drawing the scatter plot and finalizing the editing, I will want to export this diagram into into either Word document, PowerPoint, or save it in a PDF file. And the way to do that is select the graph, right click on it, scroll to export, and I'm going to show how to do it in a PDF. I can select PDF, I can select document, I can select PowerPoint. I will stick with PDF, and I'm going to select the folder to put the file in again, and I'm going to call it a 3D scatter. 3D scatter, save, and I'm going to tick this open the containing folder. If I click on OK, the file is exported to the located folder. If I click on this graph again, the 3D scatter is saved as PDF. Now, another way to transfer the figure is to right click on it, copy special, and then tick on this window on the image. So you want to copy it including the image, then click OK, and I could go to open a new PowerPoint, and then I could right click on it and add the picture here, add the diagram or the scatter plot as a picture here in a PowerPoint for presentation. So these are the different ways of drawing a scatter plot and editing it and then transferring it or exporting it to any other software.
Overlay scatter plot is another type of a scatter plot that can be used in SPSS and can be drawn for data that's or variables, several different variables. So the diagram or the chart, the overlay scatter plot, will display the relationship between multiple variables by holding one variable constant and drawing it on one of the axis, x-axis, and plotting this variable against several variables on y-axis. So the diagram will permit looking at data from several variables simultaneously in one graph by holding one variable constant in one of the axes and plotting it against 2 or 3 or 4 variables. The way to do that in SPSS, here I have data for 7 variables, and I want to draw a diagram to show the relationship between data number 1 and data number 3 and data number 4 in one diagram. And the best way forward for this is to do a overlay scatter plot. The way to do that is to click on Graphs, Legacy Dialogues, scroll down to Scatter/dot, and from this window select the overlay scatter, then click on Define. A new window will appear, and here we need to sort out our variables, and I need to fix one variable in one axis, and I will move the data number 1 into x-axis and fix it on x-axis and compare it to variable 3 and 4. So if I click on data 1 and then drag it and move it to x variables, and then click on data 3 and move it to y variable, again take the data 1 and place it in x variable, so we hold this variable fixed on x axis, and then I'm going to select data 4 and move it to y axis. So here data 1 is in one axis and plotted against data 3 and 4. What I can also do here, I could add the titles and a footnote, but I will do it in a different way. I'll show you shortly. If I click on OK, an SPSS will generate an output of the overlay scatter, as I have two variables plotted against data 1, as we can see here, data 3 in blue against data 1 and data 4 in green against data 1. So in the first top set of relationship, as we can see here, it is a decreasing relationship, an inverse relationship, and in the blue circles there is a positive relationship, an increasing relationship between data 1 and data 3. And I'm going to do some more editing on this graph. If I double click on it and double click on the graph to remove the background, click on the white, so to make it white here, and I could change the size of the graph, but I will stick with the same size. Click close, and I could also add a trend line. If I select the file as it is, click on element, fit a trend line. Again, a trend line has been fitted and it is linear, and I will keep the same line color rather than changing it, maybe increasing it a little bit, make it more thicker. And then I'm not going to make any changes here. Click close. Other modification I really could do, if I click on the y-axis, I could reduce decimal number to 0, so to make it look neater really. And I could also click on the x-axis and make the decimal to 0, as it look here much neater. And I could also get rid of this box, data R2 and R2 for linear, by click on it and then hit the delete button. If I also select the graph and right click on it, I have other options I can do. I can do a title to the graph by calling it correlation. And I could also, it's a small letter, and I could also again select and add a footnote by typing here figure, again it's a small letter, figure 1. If I select the graph again, other options I can do is to hide the legend. I could hide the legend, or I could really show them again. And also there is a function here of which you can transpose the chart. I don't know whether it's helpful, but here if I revert it back again to its original state. So this is some of the editing that can be done to the overlay scatter plot. If I want to export this diagram into other softwares like Word documents, PowerPoint, Excel, or even save it in PDF file, the way to do that is to close this one, then select this diagram, right click, left click, and then right click, and then click on export. And I'm going to save this file as a PDF, or this diagram. Again, as you can see here, they have different options. You can save it as PowerPoint, save it as document, save it as Excel file. So we stick with PDF, and I'm going to place that on a folder here in correlation, and I'm going to call it overlay, and then click save. Again, I'm going to take this here to open the folder containing it. So if I click on OK, it will be exported to the folder, and spontaneously the folder will be open, and it's overlay document. And if I click on it, the diagram is saved in PDF format. Another option is I could do is, if I right click on the diagram and then left click and then right click, a small window will appear. Select the copy special and make sure you select the image here in copy special, and then click on OK. The image is saved on the computer clipboard. So if I want to paste it here, click on this image again, the diagram is now transferred or imported into PowerPoint slide. So this is the way to do an overlay scatter plot in SPSS. if you have multiple variables and you want to look at the relationship between these variables by holding one variable constant on one of the graph axes and plotting it against several variables. Matrix scatter plot is a chart or a diagram that permits the examination of a relationship between all combinations of several pairs of variables. So if you have 3 variables or 4 variables or 5 variables, those variables are continuous variables. The data in them or the score in them are continuous, normally distributed. Then it is possible to look at the correlation or the link or the relationship between those several variables each in pairs in a whole scatter plot called matrix scatter plot. And the way to draw a matrix scatter plot in Spss, here I have a data for several continuous variables, and I want to look at the relationship between variable 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 in pairs. And I'm going to add to this relationship another dichotomous variable, which is gender, male or a female. And the way to draw, again, the way to draw a matrix scatter plot is to click on graphs, scroll down to legacy dialogues, then scroll down to scatter dot, and then select the matrix scatter, click on define, and then I'm going to reset this. So I'm going to move to the matrix variables data number 1, as I want to find the relationship between data number 1 and data number 1 and 2 and data number 1 and 2 and 3 and also number 4. And I'm going to set the marker by gender, male or female. I could here add title for the scatter plot or the chart, or I could add also a subtitle or a footnote, but I will show you how to do that once you draw the chart. So if I click here on OK, again, a matrix scatter plot is drawn. And as we can see here on the left hand side, there is a combination. This diagram or this chart shows all the combination and relationship of pairs of variable, such as data 1 and data 2, data 1 and data 3, data 1 and data 4, and again data 2 with 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. So on the y-axis are the data of 1, 2, 3, 4, and on the x-axis, if we call it here, it's data 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And the relationship between pairs of variable is drawn in each one of these squares. And the data also sorted by the gender, male as a blue circle and female as a green circle. So this is the first step when you have a collection of several variables and I want to investigate or examine or look at the relationship or the association between those variables. Then the matrix scatter plot is the one to go for. And I will show you how to do editing on this diagram. If I double click on the graph, another window will pop up. In this window, I am going to do a few editing, like for example, changing the size of the graph into, let's make it 390 instead of 400, so it can fit the window. And I could add to the each correlation between two variables that fits in trend line. If I click on fit a line at total, and I will go select the linear one, and as you can see here in the diagram, a line has been drawn to show the data and the relationship between the data. I can also change the color of the line, and if I want the thickness also, instead of going for 1, I'll go for 1.1, 1.5, and I'll click and make the color of it red. And I could also change the end cap, it's not essential. These are some of the editings it could be done in for this diagram. Now if we examine this scatter plot, it really we can see simultaneously the correlation or the relationship between data 1 and data 2. Apparently between data 1 and data 2 there is slightly negative relationship, but I can still say it is not not a strong relationship. Even it is weak, even it's less than weak, so I could consider here that data 1 and data 2 there is no relationship. But if we look at data 1 and 3, we can see here that there is a positive relationship, and whenever data 1 increases, data 3 increases. Correlation between data 1 and 4 is a negative relationship, as we can see. Increase in data 1, increase in data 4 will be associated with decrease in data 1. So that is the essence of using the diagrams matrix scatter plots to really extract from it and give a hint of the association between variables and the directions of the variables. And if we continue with the editing here, in addition to changing the line here to red, I still can double click on the graph, and I can, if I would change if I double click on the circles, I could also change the circle, but since the diagram is really, the circles are still small, so I will keep it as it is. I am going also to change here, not that major change, I'll keep it as it is, but what I want to do is probably change the background instead of making it gray, and I'm going to make the background, if I double click here and click on preview and make it white and then click on apply, I will get a white background, which is much easier to and more neat for presentation. Other editing I can do also, if I single click on the data column and another click on the first one, I can really edit that text by adding or removing thing. If I double click again on it, I could really change the color of it of this text on this side, on the left side, to this color. And I could also do the same for the bottom labels here, data 1, data 2. If I click at any one of them, if I single click, another single click will allow me editing the text, and if I double click, it will open this dialog again, and which I can really change the font of the color, the font, the size, and so on. Different things it's possible to do editing for the diagram. In addition to this, also I can click on or double click on a diagram again, and then either go to options or right click on the, after double clicking, right click on the diagram, and then I have here a list of editing things that can be used for the graph. So I could add a title here, and I could type in this title correlation, capital letter, and then I could also select the graph again and right click to add a footnote, and then I could type in it, let's say figure number one. Again, I'll click on it. Just a little bit, tweak it around. Figure. Oh, come on, where is it? If I expand that, okay, do it again, right double click on it, and then add a footnote. In that footnote I'm going to write figure 1. And also, if again double click on it and double click on the whole graph rather than the thing, than the circles, and I could also do a transpose of the chart, swapping the data on the left and the right. And if I return back to previous, I could also hide or show the ligands here on the right hand side, or show them again. Other things I could do, most of the things, that's all the things that can be done for editing the graph. Now if I want to export the scatter plot into either Word document, Excel sheet, or into PowerPoint, the way to do that is, if we close this and go to the original diagram and then select the diagram and then right click on it and scroll down to export. And this export is allow me really to export the figure either as into Excel or PDF or into Word documents or into PowerPoint. So I'm going to use PDF, and I'm going to choose the desktop here, the folder where I'm going to put it, and I'm going to call it here matrix scatterplot. And if I click save, and then if I need to tick the open the containing folder. Once you click on OK, it will be exported into the folder, and automatically the folder will open, and then we will be able to view the figure or the diagram. Here it is saved in this folder. If I click on matrix, PDF file is saved in that format, so I could really copy it and paste it and take it into another into PowerPoint, or put it in Word document. So another way to transfer the diagram is to copy it. If I click on the graph again and then select copy special, and then in the copy special I need to select also the image and then click on OK, it will be saved in the on the clipboard. If I click open a new PowerPoint and then right click in it and then click here on the paste option, a diagram is copied and transferred into this PowerPoint slide.
Matrix scatter plot. In this part 2 of the video clip, I will show you how to draw this scatter plot using a chart builder. And again, matrix scatter plot is a diagram that can be used to examine the association between a combination of several paired variables. So if you have multiple variables, 3 and more variables, and you want to look at them simultaneously and analyze the relationship between individual paired variables, then the matrix scatterplots is the one to use. And in this part 2, I will show you how to draw it using the chart builder. So here in this data in Spss, I have variables, and I want to look at variable in data 1 to data 4 simultaneously in a graph. And these data again are continuous data and normally distributed. And then I probably will add to it a 5th variable, dichotomous variable, gender of individual or participant, male and female. The way to draw the matrix scatter plot using chart builder, click on graphs, scroll to chart builder, a window will appear, just click on it, OK. Another window will appear with empty box. On the left hand side here there is a gallery. We need to scroll down to scatter dots. In the scatter dots window we have several options to choose from. Diagrams for scatter plot, whether it's simple, 3D, matrix, and this is the one, matrix scatter plot, we are interested in. So if I click on it, hold it, and then drag it into the empty box, and I'm going to add to this plot the data I want to look at. So I'm going to select data 1 to 4 and drag it to this empty box. Again, initial diagram is drawn here. I could do more editing to this graph when I'm in this page. If I go to basics element, I'm not going to make any changes. However, for groups and point ID, I could add a grouping using the gender, male or female. So males will have a color and female will have a color, as is shown here. The circles are now colored coded according to the gender of the individual. If I move to the click on the title and footnotes, I could also add a title to the graph. Here, for example, if I want, I can type correlation, title of the graph, and click on apply. And I could also add a footnote by typing figure 1, and I could click on apply, and I could click on, if I click on OK now, I will get a matrix scatter plot with a title, correlation, footnote figure, legend for male and female, and a diagram that shows all the possible combination between all the 4 variables and the relationship between these variables. If we look at data 1 and data 2, we can see there is no relationship. Data 1 and data 3, there is a positive increasing relationship. Data 1 and 4, negative decreasing relationship. So this diagram shows and allow examining the relationship of multiple variables and multiple combination of variables. If I want to edit here, I could really edit the graph further. If I double click on it, another window will appear. If I double click again on this, I could really do a few changes. Here I selected the marker. Now I need to select the graph itself. So I could really remove the gray background here on the preview and select and apply, so the background will be white. And chart size, I could change the chart size, but according to whichever size, I will just keep it as it is. I could also select the graph again and go to elements and add fit a line into it. Here I had fitted a line to show the relationship. Go again using linear. I could also edit this line by clicking on the lines. I can either change the style, increase the width, and change the color if I want. I will put here a red one, select the red one, so the line will be in red. And if I click on close, again the line are in a red, dark red. I could also click on these circles and I can choose whatever type I would like, shape, and I could change the size, increase or decrease, probably decreasing as it's really too much crowded here, and I just keep it as it is. What else I can also edit? I can also edit this legend or this data or this text on the left hand side. If I just single click on the first one and then another one click, I can really edit that text, add to it or remove from it, whatever, change the description. Again, if I double click again on this legend, I could really change the color of this text, make it green here. If I check apply, it will take for everyone, everything here. I could also change the font size to 14 and so on. These are the things that I really can change on that side of the graph. I could also do the same thing with this one, changing the color, text style, and make it greenish here, and change the size into 40, and then click on apply. So we edited these texts. Other things I also can edit in this graph. If I select the graph and then right click, I have here a list of option things. I could really copy the chart, but I will show later on how to do copying. I could add titles, already add the titles. I could add notation, add a text box, add a footnote, and so on. I could hide the legend, and I could again show the legend, and select again, see what other options we have here. So those are some of the options that are available for editing the graph. Now, additional thing here I can do in options is to add show charts in diagonal. Again, if I click on add, that's to show that chart in diagonal, and I could also remove it. Again, it shows the distribution histograms for data 1, data 2, data 3, and so on, or I could remove that data. So now if I close this window here and I want to copy this graph, matrix scatter plot, and export that or insert that or place it in a Word document, Excel file, Microsoft PowerPoint, or even save it in a PDF file, the way to do that is you need to click on it, then right click again, and then either have two options, go copy special or export. And I'm going to show you how to do export. You can export the document whatever type you want to save it in Excel, in PDF file, in Word documents, in PowerPoint, and I'm going to stick with PDF, and I'm going to save the file in the correlation in SPSS. And if I open that, and I'm going to call that matrix M correlation to make a difference from the other file saved here, and then click save. Again, you want to take this one, open the container containing folder. Once the export is finished, it automatically goes to the folder and highlight the PDF file, click on it. Again, the figure is saved in a PDF file. I could copy it, transfer it, and so on. Another options is to right click, again click on the graph, right click on it, copy special. In copy special, I will select the image, and in the image I'm going to click copy special and format to copy, including the image, and then I say OK, click on OK, and then I open whatever a Word document or PowerPoint or Excel or whatever, and if you click on the paste option here, the diagram will be pasted, copied, and pasted on this PowerPoint. So this is the way to do matrix scatter plots in SPSS using a chart builder.